Good day. Welcome to C&T Collectibles. I am C. Hope you're doing well today, and welcome to Friday Chart Blast, where we look at the price action of some of our very favorite collectibles. This is for entertainment and informational purposes only, so please consider your own investment time horizons and risk tolerances before acting on any of this stuff, if that's what you choose to do. As always, we will start off with Mike Trout, who it looks like he's been having a lousy year. Probably not the best start to his career or anything like that, because his prices after the spike in January have been done nothing but go down. There's a little bit of a consolidation here. Those typically resolve in the direction of the previous trend, so down. So you're hoping for that to hold, but since it didn't, down we go. Momentum still looks ugly, although the bands are fairly tight, so it should be controlled. And you can see that's happening here with a lot of the buying on the way down here. This is your kind of your target zone that I was like, well, I've been saying for a while, all right, it would be a gift if it gets here. I don't know if it does. And it looks like, well, this is what we're going for here. So really what's happening overall is you had just a handful of people drive this price up. And then you had a lot of people down here that were maybe new entrants to the hobby, or they've been around for a while, use that to their advantage to sell on the way down. And so we've got an imbalance of supply and demand right now. There's more supply than there is demand. That's why the prices are going down. But once it gets to a level where a lot of these people started to that they sold, they'll be interested in rebuying for, hopefully. This is kind of my theory. So you want to come back down to this natural level of previous supply here, so we can see if we get the demand going again. So hopefully in here, but for sure down. I think a lot of people, if it started to get to $2,500, $3,000, would be very eager. So I'm going to say it again. I don't know if it gets there. There's been a lot of buying in here, but we shall see. So currently the PSA 10 costs you about a little over 30, or excuse me, a little over 30, was it 3,000? My screen is a little blurry here. 38, 30, something like that. Whatever. It costs you like over $3,000. So moving along there, then the PSA 9, a similar consolidation. It's compressing to the downside. So again, you have a little bit of upside here. As long as it holds this area, then you're all right. But if it cannot hold this, if it can't, breaking out would be a very good thing. If it can't do that and breaks below this, then there's not a lot of market memory here. Again, just a couple people drove that up, and you could see a swiftish move back down into this area. And we're talking last week. I think I mentioned could see a sub $1,000 PSA 9 Mike Trout, but I think a lot of people would be probably interested in that. His injury is going to put him out for a couple months, so maybe a little bit out of sight, out of mind. But I think he's firmly established his legacy to this point here. So we'll see how that goes. Here's a comparison between his PSA 10 and his PSA 9. And if you remove the spike overall and just go from the start to the beginning, the starting point to currently where we're at, they've performed similarly. So, as far as the price goes, doesn't matter a whole much for returns. The percentage returns is there. So if you bought the higher dollar card, the percentage obviously is going to translate to a higher dollar amount. But if you're just looking for this card to enjoy it, you've done all right buying the lower grade as well. So you can see some interest in that 9, where it's been relatively flat. There was a couple spikes in this area that drove it up a little bit, but for the most part, it's held in all right here. So all right, Mookie Betts, you had your compression, a breakout, a compression, and looks like, again, these will typically resolve themselves in the direction of the prior trend, which is up, all right? But with the momentum turning over and going down, and actually it's starting to accelerate just a little bit here. And you can see it's starting to thin out just a little bit. You had a lot of buying in here, a lot of buying in here, but you saw areas here where you just had a sale or two just kind of ping-pong around. You're seeing that again. When that volatility picks up, that's usually a sign of selling pressure. So we'll see how that works out, but we do favor downside. Could be into this area here, that $400 to $500 range for the PSA 10 Mookie. Looking at his PSA 9, it's getting clobbered, no question about it. Here's your line of support, and it's really coming down into an area where there's a lot of buying before. So this might be your indicator here that if this starts to pick up, a lot of the people that I think came into the hobby recently that have likely since exited, and this is why demand is drying up. Whenever something is going up crazy, it's going to attract new buyers, and once that opportunity is gone, they're going to move on to something else. And so that's kind of what we're seeing. A lot of those people moved on, but fortunately, a lot of those people are going to stay and hang around. So our hobby has probably grown on net. But looking at this area right here, you really want this to hold and see a lot of buying start to pick up. And so currently, it's about $135, and so that would kind of line up with a with a $300 PSA 10. So if this can get going again here, but the 9s it just got rocked here. So, which is again kind of interesting because the 10s are the ones that the collectors should be ditching, because those are where you make your big bucks at, and the 9s are mostly for collectors, 10s are for investors. So the investors ditched it, and then the 9s are left to the rest of us schmucks here, and those are getting sold as well here. So Mookie's start hasn't really helped things either, but as I've said for the past 3 weeks, I think that's a little bit short-sighted. Ronald Acuna had this big pop here. Your compression, your breakout, this big pop on 3 sales. Said leave that alone. Should come back into an area where there's more buying, and here you are here. Now it's important that this area holds right here. This is your line in the sand of support. If it cannot hold this area, currently where are we at here, $190, so call it a little bit below that, $175, $180. If it cannot hold this area, then you could see a very swift drop into this right here. The way he's playing this year, this just goes to show you it doesn't matter how well you're playing. This is just people exiting the hobby, because this is a card that people should want, right? But that isn't the case, and so that's where my theory of people are just leaving is kind of coming from here. So, all right, Juan Soto. 280 was kind of your line in the sand. Said, you know what, this is a problem right here. If it comes back into this area, not a lot of buying here. You should see some market symmetry, and it was a quick flush down here, so it would get ugly and come down to this area. That's what we did. It bounced off this area, got a nice bounce, but now it's into the soup here. So again, lots of buying. So hopefully a lot of these people sold to these people who sold to whomever, and then those people are like, I'm losing money, they sell back. But a lot of these people that sold, hopefully they step back in and start repurchasing. Hey, I remember this card at $150, $170. That was a sweet deal, and here it is again. I want back in. So that's kind of what you hope for. If you can't hold this, then much lower prices. You're talking about $120, $125. So we'll see how that happens. But yeah, this is into the mess here. So tried to give a little heads up. And I assume that if you're here at this point, you are taking this as entertainment, or you are a collector and you don't care too much. If you are trying to do something actionable, then the sell signal we produced up here and the break here was kind of your area here. So I'm going to treat you guys as collectors, or we're just having some fun here. All right, Topps Chrome. Looked at this one last week. Said, here's kind of your line in the sand here. So a little bit more actionable. You had your topping process right here, but this is a card that you have to get rid of. This is kind of your last chance, perhaps. If it's a card that you're looking to buy, then be patient, because you're probably going to get a little better opportunity. We'll see how that goes. But the Topps Chrome update PSA 10, he's getting out hit by like everyone on his team right now. Can't imagine that's going to continue to be the case, but it's not helping his cause right now. So Fernando Tatis out for a week and a half on the COVID list, and came back and didn't show a lot of rust. What was he? 4 for 4 home run, doing really well here. So the momentum is down on this card. Broke his longer term trend channel here, but again, coming up into the zone where there should be a lot of support. Hit the top of that. Now testing the other side of the range, so I would expect it to come back down. Ideally ping pong here and build up some momentum. You can work off these momentum things by going down, obviously, but going sideways as well is also helpful. So you'd like to see it go sideways, but with the trend down, it could come into this area. And again, a lot of these people that bought and sold down here and probably unloaded up here, hopefully they regain their interest and defend this area, because if not, then we're looking at a $70 PSA 10. So if that does happen, then we'll have to consider repricing things. What are prospects, high regarded prospects worth? What are Hall of Famers worth? And I think that process is kind of undergoing, going on right now. But we'll see. Just to be sure, Vlad, a no name PSA 10, bottom of the range here. So this has been a buy for the last couple of times it's been down here. But and he's having a terrific season. What more does he need to do? But this is a good time to talk about asset allocation and diversification. All that. I'll keep it quick here, but. Just buying like 5 different stocks. If you buy like Microsoft and Apple and Netflix and Google and Amazon, you're not really diversifying. They're all going to kind of do the same thing. And so you have a bunch of different asset classes out there. You have stocks and bonds, but they can be further be subdivided into real estate and technology and industrials, materials. And they're all going to kind of move together for the most part. Stocks, when you're in an uptrend, 70% of the move in underlying stock is dictated by the just the underlying trend. And so cards are their own asset class. We can't really subdivide those into a lot of different things. So cards are cards for the most part. There's cards that are going to outperform based on how players are doing, obviously. But for the most part, the card market is an asset class unto itself. And so when a lot of cards are getting hit, really very few are going to be immune to that. And so Vladdy, from a high print of $280, down to $200. That's a big move. That's $80. I'm talking about 30% on that. So again, so is that enough for this one? So he's holding on to it, but if he breaks down, then again you're falling back down to an area where there's been decent buying before. There's a lot of buying in this area right here. So who knows? So this is your risk reward. You've got very little risk, you got a lot of reward, but that dynamic shifts. If you break down here, then you have very little reward and a lot of risk. So it's holding in for now. But it's with the rest of the market kind of falling off. It would be surprising if this one didn't actually. So we'll see how that goes. PSA 10 a little over $200. PSA 9, $38. I mean, this was at 80 or 90 not a couple weeks ago, and the price relative is way off. So heck, if you're looking for a Vladdy, I mean, that's a pretty decent opportunity. We haven't had that for a couple of months here. All right, the Chrome again kind of compressing, and bottom of the range. So we'll see what happens here, but not a lot of buying in this area. So if it can't hold this, you can see a whoosh down into that. Gosh, what is that? $80 or something. So crazy times here. So that was a heck of a run there. But again, manage your risk appropriately. If you're sitting on a bunch of these, maybe you peel a couple of them off. If you just have one and you're happy to have it, then go ahead and start posting it now with the price you paid, because it may not be as impressive in the near future. We'll see how that goes. But for now, as long as it holds this trend, you're all right. You're all right. But again, the rest of the market heading down, and so he may not be immune. All right, Shohei Ohtani, who is immune, so having kind of a crazy season here. So there's things under the hood that I'm skeptical of, but he does two things really, really well. It's a novelty, and a lot of people like it. So I mean, it's not a novelty. It's not fair to say that, because he's really good at the pitching and the hitting, but high walk rate, high strikeout rate. So there's a few things in there that are like, but because he can do both very competently, that's interesting. So he had the spike. And just leave it. One person thinks that's the price, and a lot of people think this is the price. Now you've got your compression. So what we need to know, so the uptrend is still intact here, but this is going to resolve itself in the direction most likely of the previous trend. Is that previous trend this, or do we count this as the previous trend? Now it's a downtrend. So that's what we'll have to see here. But a break either way will lead to a sizable move. You could bring back up here relative to those. You're kind of near where those previous highs were, or we could drop back down into this area here. So you just kind of measure that and move it one way or another. So we'll watch that one. Maybe we'll just add them to the weekly list here. And this is update hitting, and so here's your consolidation, and it broke out to the upside and matched its previous high. So maybe that's what the previous update card does. So this is the rookie debut. So yeah, if you have this card, your risk reward is not favorable at this point here, but your hope is that just kind of holds this area and then bounces back up and then breaks out. But that's a pricey card, and we'll see how that goes. At some point, he's gonna blow up one way or another, most likely, and this card will maybe reflect that. So all right, moving on to Rafi Devers. A lot of sideways action here. Not a whole lot of action here, one way or another. To be fair, this is a pretty decent range here. $60 to $100 is kind of your range. So right now you're sitting in the middle of it, so not much to do here. But if it gets down to $60, you buy it. Gets up to $100, you sell it until further notice. If it breaks above here, then you have a new range, and breaks down here, then you also have a new range. So we'll just watch these lines here and see what happens. But right now, kind of in the middle and not a lot to do. But I sure like Devers, and he's on a Boston team that's I think performing better than a lot of people perhaps predicted, and so that's not gonna hurt his chances. It shouldn't. But again, a lot of these cards are just gonna move and do what they're doing regardless of how well they're performing in the form, just because you have a lot of people, I think, leaving the hobby. But again, I think the hobby on that has grown, and so that's a good thing, and we'll find some support at some point. So we'll just try and scout out those opportunities. All right, bottom of the range for Ozzy Albies, $30 for his Chrome PSA 10. He's not having a... It's kind of weird. He's doing okay, a little bit better than average, but a lot of his metrics actually look good. He's just swinging at some pitches out of the zone a little bit and making some weaker contact there. But a lot of other things look pretty good here. But he needs to produce on the field, and you can see that the demand has really just dried up. You only have like 4 or 5 transactions in this area here, enough to shoot it from $60 down to $30. So when you have these low volume moves, they do tend to go down for the most part. You can have them going up. That's fine as well. But at an interesting spot, I don't know that it gets much cheaper. I mean, it's going to cost you more than that to grade them going forward. So Ozzie Albies is still pretty young, and he's got all the talent in the world, and I believe he'll figure it out here. So, all right, Alex Bregman. This is just a goofy looking chart. So you got your spike, and then bye, spike, bye, spike, bye. So it sounds like a teen boy band song or something like that. But trending lower here, but he's having a pretty good season. So as long as you're in this, you're going down here, but getting close to the bottom of the range where we've weirdly spiked in the past here. And looking at the Star Stock has their 3 risers and fallers for the week here, and he was one of the bigger risers here. So I think there's interest in his cards because you can get good player. All right. Moving on to we've got football. So Lamar Jackson. You have your compression at a very low level here. So again, when I talk about things that kind of get away, they return to a level of buying where you have a lot of flatness, and here you go, and so it's starting to compress. And what I like on this one is the overall momentum is building on this one. So the shorter term momentum is starting to exceed that longer term momentum, producing a buy signal. So you could see a little compression out of here. And what I really like about this one, and this is why I recently purchased one. I haven't bought a football card in a long time. $950 is his current PSA 10 price. PSA 9 is $125, and so it's kind of batted its way around 175 to 125. I didn't get this price, but I was close enough to it that I'm going to be happy. I feel so. When it comes to you think about training camp and football cards, they just look a little bit more interesting right now because there's more speculation. Rubber hasn't met the road yet, but with Lamar Jackson, 2 of his first 3 games, he's playing Vegas and Detroit, and so he could be a front runner for MVP after like week 3. So I think there'll be enough hype building up into the preseason and even the first couple of weeks of the season that you'd be very happy having one of these cards. It can make its way back up to $1,400 or something, and that's not a insignificant move from the current level here. So I like Lamar Jackson, and I bought one PSA 9, and I'm putting my money where my mouth is. So all right, Tua to bottom of the range here. So this is the raw, and so just kind of bouncing around bottom of the range. Risk reward is favorable for a raw Tua, and I see enough of these cards getting decent spikes where I'm looking at like the big movers. The big fallers are like the high dollar cards, and the big movers are the lower dollar cards. So they're kind of doing their speculation thing at this point and getting back in just a little bit. But that certainly looks interesting. Russell Wilson tops Chrome. And this one is just goofy. You've just got sell. I mean, no one's even trying to buy at a higher price. They're all just buying a little bit lower, and really respecting this downtrend. So you're coming into an area here where perhaps more buying steps up, and if it can just go sideways a little, it breaks this downtrend line. It doesn't have to do much, but it's really respected this. It's almost mechanical at this point. So PSA 10, 765, PSA 9, 206. And so PSA 9 is a little bit undervalued here, but if this keeps leaking down lower and comes back into that $600 area, then it will be fairly valued. But for now, that's pretty darn interesting. And we're going to look at one of the last things standing, and that is the Prism Football Hobby Box. And it's at a high price of $1,500 and a low price of around $1,200, and so you can see that it's held in pretty well. And so really what we need to do, so a lot of the people that came in and speculated and bought the singles, they're largely they're getting out of the way here. And so now what we need to do is the people that are going into stores and buying up these hobby boxes because they can resell them really, really quickly. Get them out now, and as soon as there's not money being made there, then we can go back to the store and start buying product again. So hobby boxes and cards in general have held a high level of demand. There's a lot of mystery and speculation. That's really what's driving this at this point. You have the preseason speculation, and now you've got the hobby box speculation. So it's kind of wacky, but we need to get that. We need to take care of these guys next, and so we can buy product again, and then we can kind of normalize our hobby. So, all right, moving on to basketball. Michael Jordan in a PSA 8. Haven't looked at him for a couple weeks here. And so your low volume move up here was February 5th, the day after the Super Bowl. My son and I did a Super Bowl video, kind of a little spoof thing or whatever, and I wanted to show a couple fake players and how well they're doing. So I used the Michael Jordan chart in a in a linear scale, and it just showed it going to the moon or whatever, and saw like a little reversal at the top. I'm like, oh my god. So the next day I'm like, all right, I got to make a real video about this one, because I think we got a top in Jordan right here. And so did call that at 23,000, and it was at a high of about 26,000 was the high price. So yeah, 26, and so around 23, like, it was a top. Jordan bubble just burst, and so been trending downwards ever since, but there's been a lot of buying, and now kind of our target was right in this area here, and so it decided it wanted to go a little bit further. Said, oh geez, could it get to that $6,000 to $8,000 area? And right now it's sitting at current price, $9,000 or whatever. So this is a couple of reference points here, spike buy, and now it's touching that again, a spike low. So what we'd really like to see is this thing just kind of hang around sideways, and if it can curl back up and out of this range, then you're going to get people excited again, and if people see that they can make money, then they'll come back. And maybe we don't want that again, and we'll have these people just drive it up in really crazy fashion, but to get a little bit more demand, just to stabilize some of these downtrends would be a nice thing overall. All right, a couple of basketball names: Donovan Mitchell and a PSA 10 looks like at the bottom of his range here. So decent area for buying in the past, and here you kind of are again. And if you just put a little trend channel up here, he's sitting right around the bottom of it, so it looks interesting. And if it kind of breaks below this or lower, then you've got opportunities to sell. But for now, here's your reward, and here's your risk. It sets up kind of favorably. Michael Porter Jr. Compressing lower, top of the range, coming off, broken the slight uptrend within the range, so it could come a bit lower here. So if this is a card that you have, perhaps this is a decent spot to be like, all right, cut bait, maybe buy back a little lower. Who knows? But yeah, so that's a broken up trend, and he's kind of compressing lower anyways. Your real line in the sand is $160. If you really have this card and you can't stand to see it just get absolutely ripped apart, then this is kind of your line in the sand. Below this, you're going to see what happens with, like, John, all that kind of stuff, where you see this quick moves down, and there's spotty buying in here, so it could be a fastish move if it can't hold that. All right, and the Joker. So we had your compression and your kind of your breakdown of that compression, and now you're moving into what's hopefully this area here where there's been a little bit of buying, but again, kind of scattered. And if it can't hold this, then you're going to keep going perhaps lower on this one here. But yeah, that's a breakdown. You can see when these things break down psychologically, then selling just begets selling, and those moves are very, very violent. So sometimes it's best just to shoot first and ask questions later. All right, Mbappe. We'll do some soccer. It's like, all right, is there anything that's working here? Is there something that we can look at that's gonna get the job done? And no, Mbappe is trending slightly lower here. Not slightly lower. I mean, he was at a high price of $1,500, and now he's sitting at $900. So you cut down by a third. So not slight at all. 33% down by a third. Area of a lot of buying here, and it's getting close. And so from my pencil, it's like, all right, there's been a lot of buying on the way down. I think we're getting close to an area where things could stabilize. I don't think you're going to see these rockets back up by any stretch, but it does look like maybe this is getting close to done. People that sold in these areas, or maybe those are your buyers at this point. Maybe they want to come back in. So we'll have to watch that and see how it goes. So, all right, Tiger Woods, is golf going to help us out? No. You had this spike, and again, it only 3 or 4 people drove it up to this level here. But then you had buying all the way down, and now all these people are underwater, and they may come in and do some more selling, be like, that's it, I can't take this anymore. And a lot of these people here, maybe they sold to them. They're like, I'll happily snap it back up. So that's what we'll be looking for here. So we shall see how that goes. All right, Charizard downtrend. So you had your big spike here, and again, leave that alone. There's more people that believe this is the price than believe that this is the price. And so traveling, but it's in a downtrend. It's breaking down, and again, is it going to bottom of this range at least? So favorable risk reward, but we'll see. The trend is down, the momentum is down. Trust me on that one. And this is the next area where there's a lot of buying, and so it could be a quickish move, boom, into that area, which is $900 or something like that. So, all right, can Stan the Man save us? No, he can't. All right, Stan Lee. So I'm looking at all the cards in general, and again, cards are kind of their own asset class. There's different things within that, but for the most part, they're all going to kind of do the same thing. So $4,000. Now you're sitting at $500. So that's that's a pretty big decline on a fairly low volume. So anyways, that's it's tough out there. If you haven't been through something like this before, it's unpleasant, and hopefully you've stayed within your means, and really just start looking for opportunities at this point. They're always out there. There's always going to be a better day. All right, sorry about the abrupt ending here, but as I was uploading, YouTube gave me a friendly heads up that there was probably a little bit of music in the background or something that was going to prevent this video from being uploaded, so I had to cut off a bit, and I just wanted to give a proper thank you. Appreciate you watching, and have a great weekend. Take care now. Bye.